And today, the Supreme Court has answered that question by a vote of 6-3.
The U.S. Supreme Court has just issued a major ruling.
Major Second Amendment case.
Major Supreme Court ruling.
While most Americans were busy looking at political headlines and the latest chaos on the news, a quiet but historic shift was happening inside the Supreme Court. In a move that almost never happens anymore, the justices came together in a unanimous decision. And this one? It goes straight to the heart of our personal freedoms. This wasn't about some boring technicality or a minor rule change. It was about power. It was about force. It was about exactly what the government is allowed to do to you during a police stop, and how the courts are required to judge it. The case is called Barnes versus Felix. At first, it looked like just another excessive force case, but the outcome was groundbreaking. This 9-0 ruling didn't just update a standard. It completely destroyed an old legal doctrine that has let law enforcement off the hook for decades. In its place, the court built a new framework, one that protects gun owners and law-abiding citizens more than ever before. And here's why that matters to you. If you carry a gun, if you own one, or if you simply believe in the right to be left alone by the government, this ruling changes your world. Today on Firearms Law Advisor, we're breaking down exactly what the court ruled and how it flips decades of precedent on its head. This affects everything: self-defense, concealed carry, and those tense red flag encounters. This is what every gun owner needs to know before their next interaction with the law. Let's get into it. It all started with a simple traffic stop in Texas, but it ended in a tragedy that rewrote legal history. Officer Robert Felix Jr. stopped a man named Ashton Barnes for something as small as unpaid tolls. But things escalated fast when the officer ordered Barnes to get out of the car. Barnes opened the door like he was told, but then he suddenly tried to drive away. In that split second, Officer Felix jumped onto the doorframe of the moving car and fired 2 shots inside, killing Barnes. The whole thing happened in just 5 seconds. Later on, Barnes' mother filed a lawsuit claiming her son's Fourth Amendment rights were violated. She argued that using deadly force in that situation was excessive and totally unjustified. This forced the courts to face a massive question. Was it legal for the officer to fire in that moment of danger? Or should the court have looked at the bigger picture of how the situation got so dangerous in the first place? That one question was about to change everything. For years, our courts relied on a very narrow legal test called the moment of threat standard. Basically, it meant that an officer's actions were judged only by the exact instant they used force. If an officer said they felt threatened in that 1 second, case closed. It was justified. In this case, both the district court and the Fifth Circuit backed the officer. Why? Because at the exact moment Felix was hanging onto that moving car, he felt like he was in danger. Under the old rules, that was enough. But there was a huge problem with that logic. It ignored everything that happened before the shots were fired. Why did the officer jump onto the car to begin with? Could the whole thing have been de-escalated? None of that mattered under the old rule. And that is exactly what the Supreme Court decided had to change. In a powerful, unanimous opinion written by Justice Elena Kagan, the Supreme Court wiped out that old moment of threat doctrine. They replaced it with a much broader principle: the totality of the circumstances. Here's the new deal. The courts are now required to look at the full timeline of events. The decisions an officer makes leading up to a shooting must be weighed. Force has to be judged based on what a reasonable officer would do throughout the entire encounter, not just in the final second. The court made it clear the facts leading up to the moment show why an officer might see someone's behavior as a threat or as totally harmless. In other words, context isn't optional anymore, it's essential. And that has huge implications for every police encounter from now on. This ruling isn't just for lawyers, it's for you. If you legally carry a firearm, you've probably thought about what could happen during a tense stop. You tell the officer you're carrying. You follow the rules. But if they misunderstand your movement for even a second, it could lead to a disaster. Until now, the courts would only look at that 1 second. Now, they have to consider everything. Did you act calmly? Was your weapon holstered and legal? Did the officer overreact to your legal behavior? This ruling opens the door to real accountability. It means gun owners won't be judged solely on how an officer felt in a split second of panic. The Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment are finally being treated as part of the same conversation. This new totality of circumstances rule is more than a legal update. It's a shield for your liberty. It forces the law to look deeper. It demands a standard of reasonableness, not just fear or instinct. Officers can no longer justify deadly force by skipping over the context. If they escalated the situation or misunderstood your legal actions, it matters. For concealed carriers and home defenders, this is massive. It means your legal rights are finally getting a fair review in the courtroom, instead of just a rubber stamp for the government. This decision restores real meaning to our constitutional protections. It's a judicial reset. The Supreme Court didn't just disagree with the lower courts, they dismantled a standard that had been followed for decades. This is the new reality for every responsible gun owner, whether you carry concealed, open carry, or just transport your firearms legally. You're likely to deal with law enforcement at some point, and how that interaction goes will define your future. You're no longer judged on a single, isolated moment. The law now demands fairness for both sides. It doesn't mean every use of force is illegal now, but it raises the bar that officers have to meet. For gun owners, this restores balance. You aren't just presumed dangerous because you have a weapon. The Constitution doesn't exist in silos anymore. The right to bear arms and the right to be free from unreasonable force are now connected. The impact of Barnes versus Felix is just starting to be felt. It's being called the most important excessive force ruling in a generation. Unlike past decisions that always favored police immunity, this one tilts the scale back toward protecting the citizen. Change is coming. Training programs will have to change. Police policies will have to be revised. And gun rights advocates now have a powerful precedent to use in court. This 9-0 ruling sends a clear signal. This isn't about politics, it's a legal mandate. The Constitution is being clarified for a new generation that demands rights that actually mean something. The real power of this case is what it prevents. It prevents excuses from replacing accountability. It prevents the courts from ignoring the truth just to stick with old precedents. For every citizen, it protects the right to be treated fairly. No more automatic deference just because of a badge. Barnes versus Felix is a turning point. A 9-0 wake-up call. If we use it correctly, it's the most important tool we've had in decades to preserve due process and freedom. You might not hear about this on the evening news, but make no mistake. The Supreme Court just sent a shockwave through the system to protect you. This ruling is about all of us. It's about people who just want to be safe, protected, and treated fairly by the laws we follow. This is your shield. Now you know how to use it. Share this with your community because this knowledge could literally save a life. Comment below if you've ever worried about being misunderstood during a stop, and subscribe to Firearms Law Advisor. Because we don't just tell you what happened. We show you what it means for your rights, your future, and your freedom. Stay safe, stay smart, and stay armed with knowledge. We'll see you in the next one.